Unbelievable. Hi, folks. We have 7 people on right now. We'll give it a couple minutes, but
Okay.
we're just talking generally about the differences in the experience in Mexico specifically. Right now, I was telling Deidre that I had to take my dog to the vet. We took our dog to the vet last night because he hurt his back. He's an older dog and he yelped and like clearly something was bothering him. So we took him to the vet. He's okay. We don't think it's a fracture or anything. But just the experience of going to the vet here is like a completely different experience, like low stress. There was no like barking dogs in the waiting room. I had a whole
Yeah.
conversation with the vet about my horrible neighbor from the US. And she was my vet. It was like this, a highly educated woman. She's like, we call that a pinche gringo. And I was like, yes, exactly. It's just very, she's warm. She gives us a hug. My dog
Yeah.
feels comfortable with her. It's just, life is just better here.
It is. And
But,
I had this kind of experience when I was in Barbados because we were just talking
mm,
about the lawyer that
mhm.
I found. And so she did some stuff for me, and we can talk a little bit more about the process that I'm going through
Yeah.
immigration wise.
Yeah, actually, do you wanna
Um,
just go ahead and back up and
sure.
introduce yourself? Yeah, please
Sure,
do.
sure, sure. Yes, I'm Deidre Keller. By training, I'm a lawyer. By profession, I'm a teacher. So I've been teaching law students for 16 years. I've done just about everything you can do in legal academics, including lead an institution as a dean. Um, and we are, after 10 years of kind of thinking about it, making the move out of the United States to Barbados. So we're super.
Yay, everybody aplauso, aplauso. Yeah.
Yeah. So we were in Barbados just a couple of weeks ago for my son's spring break. And one of the things, I was getting all the immigration stuff done, and I can talk about that process.
Mm.
Um, and so we have a lawyer there who's going to help us with the purchase of our home and uh, did some basic review on my application materials, application materials are super simple and straightforward. Um,
Nice.
and so one of the things she did for us was get my documents notarized, essentially. It's called a justice of the peace there, but it's the same thing as notaries here.
Mhm.
Uh, I was like, okay, well, how much do I owe you for that? And she said, don't worry about it. And I was like, what? Like, I said,
Wait,
ma'am,
what?
how you make a living? And she said,
Yeah.
no, no, it is how I make a living. But,
Yeah.
we're going to be working together and it'll all shake out. Right. And so the difference is it's not like uh everything is profit driven. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like she's like, no, we're
Right.
establishing a relationship and that relationship's gonna be ongoing. And so
Mhm.
it'll all work out. I literally had to ask her like more than once for for like her retention,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
And so it just is very different. It's much more relationship based
Yeah.
um than like penny pinching. I mean, America gets to be very penny pinching very quickly.
Especially in the legal profession. I mean, I worked at a law firm. I'm a licensed attorney, but I never actually
Mhm.
practiced law. But like, I worked at a law firm while I was going to law school at night,
Mhm.
and I was a legal assistant, so I was responsible for like the billing system and
Yes.
paying attention. And it's, I mean, literally nickel and dime. And you know, I've I like I like to do more relationship based, like a chunk of a retainer, and then
Right.
you contact me when you need me, and we don't nickel
Yes.
and dime. However, I think what I've realized with a lot of people from the US is they also have that sort of extractive mindset
Mhm.
of like, how much can I get out of you for the amount of money that I'm paying you?
Right.
So it's a little, it's a little tricky. It can be a little tricky.
Yeah.
But anyway, so tell us about so as Deidre said, she's making the move to go to Barbados. We connected actually over a consult
Mhm.
and identified a couple different pathways, and the pathway that ultimately your immigration lawyer in Barbados recommended was through the CARICOM sort of
Yes.
Yeah. So why don't you
So,
speak a little bit to that? Because I
okay,
don't know that everybody knows about that.
sure. So, some background is appropriate here.
Yeah.
I am an immigrant to the States. So,
Mhm.
I was born in Georgetown, Guyana. Um, and my whole family, my mother's whole family, uh, basically immigrated to the States in the late 70s.
Okay.
And so been in America for the most part since 1979.
Okay.
But when we were younger, my mother would send us home to Guyana for summers.
Mhm.
So I had some familiarity with Guyana, and then I had not been to Guyana for 38 years. Right.
Okay.
So in March of 2024, I decided that I was going to go home to Guyana.
Mhm.
So over the course of 24, 25, my husband and I went to Guyana twice, went to Jamaica, we went to the Bahamas. We're already sort of thinking about where we want to land, basically.
Mm.
Right.
Mhm.
So Reggie had been to Barbados before. I had been to Barbados, but as a child, so I had no real recollection of it. Right.
Mhm.
Um, and so we settled on Barbados in part because, I mean, we thought very seriously about Guyana because Guyana is still home and I
Mhm.
still have family in Guyana. My father was one of 14 children. So, right. So he
You got
has,
an extended family down there.
yes, and he has family
Yeah.
everywhere, but he still has family in Guyana.
Okay.
So we thought seriously about Guyana, but the political situation in Ghana is fraught. And I
Mm.
don't know, how much people know about this, but Guyana very recently discovered a bunch of oil off its coastline. And
Did read about
so
that.
it's the
Mhm.
fastest growing economy in the world and has been
Mm.
for several years. But what that means is that everything there price wise is inflated right now. So
Ah.
I wasn't really keen on buying a property on the upswing, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
In Guyana, especially because, like I said, the political situation there is still very fraught. So it doesn't there just isn't the stability there that I was
Mm.
looking for.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
and so in terms of the education system, the healthcare system, and stability, and both politically and investment wise,
Mhm.
Barbados made sense.
Yeah.
So because I was born in Guyana, and I never so if you when you naturalize in the United States, you have to sort of articulate that you're giving up all your other citizenships.
Right.
But I never did that process at all because
Oh,
I derived American citizenship from my parents who naturalized when I was a minor, right?
I see. Okay.
So I never went through the naturalization process.
Mhm.
That means there's no question about my continuing Guyanese citizenship.
Okay. Okay.
So,
So wait, so I just want to touch on that real quick because
mhm,
like I know that dual citizenship in general is not yet prohibited by the United States.
it's not,
Um,
but you do
but
renounce when you become an American citizen. When you naturalize as an American citizen,
right.
part of what you do in that process is renounce your prior allegiances.
Right, your prior allegiances, but does that mean you have to also give up your passport from your original
That I
country?
don't know the answer to. I don't know the answer to that question.
Yeah, I
Um,
feel like no, because I know well, actually, no, my ex-husband did not naturalize, he just became a permanent resident, so maybe okay, yeah,
Yeah, I
for
don't know the answer, but I do know, I mean, my parents both naturalized and then never carried Guyanese passports again. The question in
mhm,
my mind is whether Guyana cares if you say on some American documentation that you're renouncing. I don't know the answer to that question. I'm making it clear that the
mhm.
thing that I'm saying is not about people who have naturalized, right? Because I'm not,
Right, right. You
I don't
didn't.
know. Right.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I don't know that process. So
right.
when I was in Guyana in 24, I went and got like all the documents I would need to
Mhm.
get a Guyanese passport. So now I have both. I have both a Guyanese
Mm,
and an American passport.
I see.
So people who are what CARICOM refers to as CARICOM nationals. That means you're the citizen of a CARICOM nation
Mm-hmm.
and that have a degree. So you can have an associate's degree or any kind of degree.
Mm-hmm.
Can move among the CARICOM nations in a fairly straightforward manner. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
to register with the CARICOM skills, the abbreviation is CSME. I can't remember what the M is.
Skills and markets or something,
Right.
economy.
Right.
Yeah, it's yeah, I know what you're
And
talking about. Yeah,
so you
it's
do this registration, the CSME registration, which I did at the Barbados Accreditation Council when I was there in March. I put it in my paperwork,
mhm,
and then you get uh essentially a registration. So the thing that I learned talking to the lawyer in Barbados is CARICOM nationals can go to other CARICOM nations
mhm,
for 180 days, no
mhm,
questions asked, right? So you
mhm.
can just go and be there for 6 months, kind of like Canada and the US, right?
Yeah, visa
Um,
waiver. Mhm,
right. And so that is yeah, so I could go there tomorrow even without my CSME done and it would
mhm,
right?
mhm.
Because the process takes about 6 weeks to 2 months to get your registration. Once
Okay,
you've gotten that, the thing that that does is it puts me in, on a footing to become a resident, essentially,
okay,
to apply for residence. And then my so I have one of my children is coming with me. I have 6 children, but my baby is the only minor.
I did not know you had 6 children.
Yeah.
let me just give you kudos for looking as good as you do.
Thank you. Yeah, they keep you young, right? Um, but 5 of them are adults, and
Mhm,
so only my minor child is coming with us.
mhm.
But, all of my biological children anyway are Guyanese citizens by virtue of me.
I
So
see,
right, for one generation, if you're born to a Guyanese citizen, for one generation, you're automatically a Guyanese citizen.
I see.
So we this matters because for school and healthcare and all of those things, CARICOM nationals have a slightly preferred treatment to international folks in Barbados.
Sure. Yeah.
Um, and so our next step is to get Ian his certificate of Guyanese birth abroad and
Mhm.
all of those, boxes checked. And
So,
so
can I interrupt you? I just have a question about that. Is that the reason the sort of, the enhanced status and access to services, is that the reason you chose to go the route of the CARICOM naturalization versus just doing, like, the digital nomad visa?
yes and no. The other part of the reason is that is a reason, but the other
Mhm,
part of it is that really my project is kind of divesting from the States.
mhm,
And so once I get to Barbados, like I would like to figure out how I can be of service to Barbados, right?
mhm, mhm.
And so the CARICOM route allows me to do that, whereas like a digital nomad, I would be tethered to
Yep,
the US indefinitely.
yep.
And I'm just not inclined to hang out in Barbados and not make myself of some use there.
Yeah, yeah,
So that's really the the big reason why
yeah,
CARICOM makes more sense
yeah.
for us. And so then my husband, who is an American, his family's been
Mhm.
in Maryland for 400 years or whatever. um,
Wow. Yeah.
he I will when I do the sort of transition to residence and
Mhm.
you can't initiate that for 6 months, right?
Okay.
So once I do that, then that's where we'll fold him in. And
Gotcha.
he is, retired, so he, uh, it's not like he needs to be working while we're there or anything like that. So
Right. So
yeah,
he'll come in as your dependent
correct.
spouse
Yes,
essentially and be granted family unity,
right,
resident status. Okay, awesome.
precisely. Yep,
Yay.
yes.
Okay.
Okay. You have
So
questions about the process?
Yeah, I don't have any questions about the process. If anybody has any questions about the process that they want to drop in the chat, feel free to do so, and I'll ask them to Deidre. My next question for you is, what was your, I mean, you said you've been considering moving out of the US for 10 years, right?
Mhm.
But what was there any one particular thing or series of events or occurrences that caused you to
Yeah.
say, we're doing it now, let's move?
So, sort of the what's the saying? Thing that broke the camel's back?
Yeah, the straw that broke the camel's back.
Right, the
Yeah.
straw that broke the camel's back is so we have lived in Florida for 6 years, and, Florida is different, right? I so I wanna be really clear about this. Um, I grew up in New York City, and when I left to go away to college, I never really moved back to New York City.
Mhm.
While I was in college, my mother moved to Atlanta.
Mm.
So when I graduated from college, I moved to Atlanta, so I lived in Atlanta for 10 years. That's where I went to law school, it's where I was barred, it's where I practiced law, okay?
Mhm.
That's an important piece of the story because I wanna make clear that I had lived in the South,
Mhm.
okay? So
Florida's different.
Florida's different.
Mhm.
So I left Atlanta when made the transition from practicing law to teaching law.
Mhm.
I went to Ohio Northern University, which is in Ada, Ohio, which is a
Mhm.
town of about 6,000 people. Uh,
Mm.
right. So I went
Ohio's different too.
Ohio is different, but not quite as different as Florida in ways
Mm.
that I'm gonna describe shortly here.
Yeah.
So, we lived in Ohio for 10 years. My husband still refers to that time as having done 10 years in Ohio as if it were a prison sentence, right? So, well, that's I mean, the thing is that when I moved to Ohio, I thought I was moving back north because geographically, right?
Mhm.
The thing that
Mhm.
no one told me and that no one can explain to you until you're in rural Ohio is that rural Ohio is really just Kentucky, right? And so
It's the South with the winter, like,
it's the South with the winter, without the sweet tea,
mm,
and without the manners.
mm.
And so it was a challenging place, right?
Yeah,
On many
yeah.
fronts. But
And just to be clear, like, your husband is a Black man.
he is, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, a tall, like he's 6 feet tall, like a big old guy.
Mhm. Mhm.
Which also matters because
Uh, extremely matters.
living in a town of 6,000 people where, the population is about 2% Black, and all of those people have something to do with the university that's in that town.
Mhm.
Within about 6 months, everyone knew my husband. Everybody.
Mm.
Like, we would be walking down the street and people were like, "Hey, Reggie," and I'd be like, "Who's that?" And they're just like, "I don't know."
Oh,
Everybody
boy.
knew
Yeah.
because there just are not that many, big Black men in Ada, Ohio. So,
Mhm.
it was a challenge. When we moved there, my son, who's 26 now,
Mhm.
was 11, and
Mm.
he was we got there, and after I noticed him counting, and I was like, "Dude, what are you doing?" And he was
Mm.
like, "Counting the other Black people we see."
Oh, wow.
At the end of that weekend, he was like, "Mom, I think we doubled the population of Black folks in this town." So,
Wow.
when I tell you it was challenging, it was challenging, right?
Yeah.
Uh, and, I have myriad stories about that. I have 2, well, probably 3 children that people encounter first as looking biracial.
I
Um,
see.
they are not biracial, right? Like,
It just came out looking
it
light. Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
right? Um,
Mhm.
but in Ohio, this presented some particular challenges because in the minds of most people in Ohio, if you encounter someone biracial, you're assuming that their mother is white and their father is black.
Mm-hmm.
And so then I would show up and people would be like, "Who are you?" Uh,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so I regularly had people, the sort of quintessential story is my daughter, who is at that time had like dirty blonde hair. Uh,
Mm.
I was in community market with her, which is like the market in the town. And
Mm-hmm.
and this lady came up and started talking to her, and I was like, "Hey, who are you?" And
Yeah.
she's, "I'm Kiara's social studies teacher. Who are you?" And I was like, "I'm Kiara's mother." And she was like, "You're Kiara's mother?" And I was like, "Did I stutter?" "Yes, I'm Kiara's mother." And she like I could see her doing the mental calculation, right? Like, black mom. What
Yeah.
does this mean? Right?
Uh-huh. What does it mean? And who did she pair with to make this child is the next question,
Right.
right?
None of
Mm-hmm.
this is your business.
And none of it is
Um, so that's what it was like. I mean, that's like the quintessential story of what it was like living in rural Ohio, which
Oh
we
my
did for
goodness.
10 years. So then I got this opportunity to lead a law school here in Florida.
Mm-hmm.
And we came to Florida during the pandemic.
Mm.
Now, mind you, 10 years ago, we're still living in Ohio, right?
Mm-hmm.
The um, Trump campaign happened. And the first thing that did was make very clear what proportion of the people around us were hateful. Like, I don't even know
Yeah,
how else to say
racist.
it,
Yeah.
right? Um, and so that, I mean, we had obviously many weird encounters, but that campaign, people really came out of the woodwork on some
Yep.
nonsense, right?
Yep. Yep.
And at that time, we were living in Findlay, Ohio, and I mean, when I tell you it was wild, it was wild. There was a guy who had this truck that he would drive around with, like, effigies of Hillary Clinton and Barack
Oh
Obama
my
on
God.
the street. It was wild, okay?
I thought you were gonna say Trump flags or Confederate
Oh,
flags
all of
or
that, all of that,
yeah,
all of that.
all of that, but
But
effigies is a new one. Wow.
when I tell you it was different, right? And so it that was a really difficult moment,
Mhm.
right? And my husband so I you have to understand, my husband served the military.
Oh.
Right. He what I can't even say he was. He says he is a ranger because once you're a ranger, you never stop being a ranger. So
Yeah.
that's how he describes it.
Mhm.
Um, and I really felt a way about, like I said, his family's been in Maryland for hundreds of years. I really felt a way about leaving the states,
Mm.
and I was like, "This nation is our children's birthright too." Like you have
It
bled for this
is.
country, and I don't. I'm not inclined to just give it over to the crazy people.
Mhm.
And he was like, "I'm over it." He was like, I am done. Like, this country has never loved me back, and I'm not gonna just wait around for it to do that. So this has been kind of a push and pull for 10 years, right?
That is fascinating to me because I think you are the first heterosexual couple that I have consulted with where it's the man like who's like I'm ready, I'm done and the woman
Really?
who's hesitating. Yes, it's almost always the reverse. And with queer couples then obviously it varies, right? But I mean, you're the first one that is a heterosexual
Interesting.
couple where the man was driving, but it doesn't surprise me because he's a black man.
Yeah.
I mean, that's different. You talk about Maryland.
Yes.
My husband also has roots going back to Maryland, for, centuries or whatever, and we know what those
Mhm.
roots are, right?
Yeah. Absolutely.
So, like, that is I just had
So
to
people
comment on that.
forget that, the harbor, the Baltimore harbor was one of the biggest points of slaves being imported into the United States. People forget that, right?
Mhm.
But
Or never
that's
learn
true.
it.
Or
Yeah.
never learn it. Right.
Mhm.
And so No. So it's very clear, but that's part of the reason that I was like, hell on them. Like, I'm not just running off, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And and then too, like what I do work wise, at
Mhm.
that time I was like, I can be most impactful continuing down this path, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but then I served an HBCU law school, and it became very clear very quickly that the rot, I mean, the just so you have to understand, there are 6 HBCU law schools in this country, 6.
Yeah.
And, 4 of them exist in places that are actively antagonistic towards their existence.
Which who where are you talking about? Mississippi, I'm
No,
assuming? No?
Louisiana, Louisiana,
Louisiana. Okay. Mhm.
Texas, Florida,
Mhm.
North Carolina.
Mhm. Oh, right. And what's the 4th?
North Carolina.
North Carolina. Okay. Okay.
So, there are 2 more, both in DC,
Okay.
and that's it. And so
What am I thinking
the
about in Mississippi? Okay, never mind.
They're in a law school. Those are the
Yeah.
6 HBCU law schools in
Oh,
the
I'm thinking of just a university.
You're
Okay,
thinking
law
of
school.
universities, yes.
Mhm. Yeah.
So once I was sort of inside that institution, and the whole reason I joined that institution is because I thought, this is a place where I can where I can educate lawyers who are gonna go out and plant seeds of racial justice, right?
Yeah.
Um, but I didn't realize until I was in it how limited my ability to do that would be.
Mhm.
And how stymied I would be at sort of every turn, you know?
Mhm. Mhm. I
And
do. Mhm.
um so once I had done that, I had to sort of come to terms with the fact that the path that I was on was very unlikely to yield significant results, right?
Mhm.
Which is
Mhm.
like it's a heartbreaking conclusion to come to.
Yeah.
Uh, but that is sort of what then got me on the same page as Reggie, right?
Right. Right.
Um, and so that's kind of the genesis. But then the
Yeah.
straw that broke the camel's back is
Mhm.
my son, our baby, is going to high school next year.
Mhm.
And people may know this, but the Florida state legislature has approved PragerU content for teaching in public schools here.
Remind me what PragerU content
It's a
is.
propaganda. It's a conservative propaganda site. And I was like, absolutely, like, I'm not deprogramming my kid every day. I'm not doing it. I don't want to, right?
Yep.
And I have had kids in public schools in Georgia, Ohio, and now Florida over the last, 25 years, let's call it, right?
Mhm.
And I have watched the like significant devolution of the public education system from the perspective of a parent.
Yeah.
And that's so at the end of the day, I was like, I have to get my kid out of here because I need him to get a real education. And right
Yeah.
now, I'm the one who's like, you have to read actual books, kid. Like all this, reading snippets of books so that you can answer the question on the test, that's not going to fly.
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
But that's not the message he's getting at school.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I'm already kind of constantly, um, yeah, I'm the push, and
Mhm.
that I've looked at the curriculum in Barbados.
Mm.
It is
And it's like real facts,
rigorous.
and they want him to learn real facts and use
Yeah.
his brain.
And I told him, I'm like, you have to understand, like, school's about to kick your butt, kid. Like, get ready.
Yeah. No,
The
and that's like a West Indian thing too, right?
Yeah,
In general,
yeah,
like it's pretty the educational system is pretty what's the word I'm looking for? Rigorous. It's
yeah,
rigorous. They
yeah,
expect a lot.
yes.
Yeah.
My
Yeah.
mother graduated from high school in Guyana
Mhm.
with two languages. Like she could
Uh,
read French and Spanish,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And was also could speak Spanish well enough to get a job where
Mhm.
all day she spoke Spanish. Like,
Wow.
right.
From high school.
From high school.
See, that's something you will not hear unless somebody's in some elite private school for
Nope.
geniuses or whatever. So I want to stop right here and talk about this because one of the things, like as you're describing, straw that broke the camel's back, one of the straws, I guess we'll say, is this deterioration of public education that
Yeah.
would be, especially for somebody who's an academic, right, to have
Right.
your own kid be like indoctrinated with nonsense. What I find so wild is that, I do a lot of writing about immigration online, and I
Mhm.
always have people in the comments saying, "Oh, I'd love to, but I can't," right? And one of the supposed reasons why people feel that they can't leave the United States is because they have children. Now, very frequently, people will not dig into that, right? They won't
Right.
unpack that statement
Yeah.
because and I don't typically put people on the spot and, kind of drill them down, but I want to as a lawyer, right?
Right.
And be like, well, what
Tell
exactly
me
is
more
it that
about
your
that.
child is
More
receiving in
about
the
that.
United States? Yeah. So is it the mass shootings that you're wanting to make sure he
Right.
has exposure to? Or is it
Yeah.
the Project 2025 indoctrination?
Right.
Is
And
it,
see,
is it being
right.
a minority in his school and bullied for the
Yeah.
fact that he's different? Is it, like, what
Yeah.
exactly are you
And,
holding tight to in the
it's
United States?
so interesting that you say that because this is obviously the thing. This thing has been on the front of my mind for many years, right? I mean, I remember, so my kids we have the big kids and then Ian, right? And there's 8 years between Ian and the youngest big kid. So we refer to Ian as our caboose. um,
Mhm.
and so, I remember like sitting my kids down after Sandy Hook
Mm.
and saying and talking through like what would you do if something like this happened? And my son, the one who is 26 now, he said I would go find my siblings. And I said you can't. You can't. Like you have to get out of
You have
there.
to abandon your family.
He was looking at me like, "Who even
They
are you?" Right?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
Um, like, I'd never had a conversation like that. It always was take care of each other, you stick together, you right? Like, always. And now I'm telling him, like,
Save
leave
yourself.
your younger siblings in this situation. And he's looking at me like, I don't even know you, you know? And I don't want to have that conversation with Ian. I don't
Yeah.
want,
Yeah.
similarly, when Trayvon Martin was killed, I sat my boys down and had, right? The and of course, we lived in a place that was so white that I had already had the
Mhm.
"You can't do the things your friends do" conversation. You
Yep.
can't run through other people's yards. Like, you can't do that. I understand
Nope.
if your friends do it, and I'm telling you,
Mhm.
it's a no, right?
Nope.
I already had that conversation.
Shoplifting, pool hopping, smoking
You
weed
don't
behind school. Nope.
do any of that, right?
Mm-mm.
You're at a party where there's drinking. And I literally used to say it to them like this when they were in high school, "You get your black ass out of there." I was like, "If
Yeah.
some stuff goes down, you're going to jail." Like, I don't know what
Yeah.
to tell you. Life is
Yeah.
not fair, right?
Yeah.
And so I'd had all those conversations with my big boys. The Trayvon Martin conversation was like, if you guys get pulled up by the cops and they're
Mhm.
only wanting to hold one of you, everybody else needs to come home and tell me what has happened so that I can take care of it.
Mhm. Mhm.
And my youngest child has a best friend who's also a black boy. I don't want to have this conversation with those boys. Like, they are like brothers. I'm not telling them. I'm not telling my son to leave his best friend. I don't want to. I don't want
Mm.
to. Right. So
Yeah.
all of that had already accumulated.
Yeah.
And then PragerU. Right. And then I snatching kids out of schools. Right. And then, right. And so It just has gotten to the point where it's too much, you know?
Mhm. You make a real it's a really interesting point that I've considered it for myself, but I hadn't considered it for a lot of people because I think you're a little further along mentally in the journey than a lot of people that come to me. But
Mhm.
the the reality that being in an environment where your family is constantly under attack, where you cannot trust the government to do, its most basic of functions,
Right,
specifically for you and your family because of identity, because of racism, um, how you can become somebody you don't want to become
right.
as the defense mechanism. I mean, that's what I'm hearing, right? It's like, you don't value rugged individualism.
No, absolutely not.
You don't value save yourself. But when it comes down to it, as a mother, as a
Right,
parent, you have to say that to your kid because your job is to protect them. What a rock and a hard place to be in.
right.
I mean,
Exactly.
that's just it's like either stick to your values and give your kid bad advice that might get them hurt, or give your
Right.
kid advice that will save them that you morally are opposed to. I mean, that's just
Absolutely.
ridiculous. And when
Yeah.
people talk, spin this American exceptionalism bullshit, which they do at me
Mhm.
frequently, I'm like, you have no idea. You are a frog in boiling water. You have no
Yes,
idea how bad it is.
exactly. And living inside that contradiction, it's exhausting. It's
Yeah,
exhausting.
it is.
And, I was just done. I mean, when I said to my sister probably a year ago, so my mother did not wanna leave Guyana. Like, mom to the time my mom died in 2021, and even when she died, she always wanted to go back home, you know?
Mhm.
She was the last in her family of origin to leave Guyana. And I
Mm,
actually didn't know why she had left Guyana until
mhm,
my daughter was a Girl Scout, and they were doing this project about, like, how did your family come to the States? And so she called my mom and asked her, right? And what my mom told my daughter is that mommy was working for the Guyana Revenue Service, which is like the IRS, right?
mhm, mhm,
Working for them during an elec she was working for the Guyanese government during an election. So everybody who worked for the government during the election was basically seconded to the election, right? So they were
mm,
all related things.
mhm.
And in the process of that work, she realized that the election wasn't legitimate, essentially.
It
And
wasn't what?
legitimate, like they were
Oh,
stuffing ballot
yeah.
boxes, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Mhm,
And what she said to Kiara is, at that point, she knew, like, Ghana was in a very bad situation economically. The people in Ghana were in a very bad situation economically. And
mhm,
she knew that wasn't gonna change anytime soon because the people had no real say in their
mm,
representation, right?
yeah.
And so that was the thing that prompted her to leave Guyana when she did.
The loss of democratic
Right.
integrity.
Exactly.
Mhm,
And I said to my sister a year ago, I was like, "Okay, well, I'm not convinced we have democratic legitimacy here in the States, thing the
thank
first.
you.
And thing the second, they're also snatching people off the street, right? Like,
Yeah,
mommy left Guyana for less than this. The
yep,
place of her birth, the country she loved, right? She left for
mhm,
less than this.
yep,
And so what are we waiting for? And she
yeah.
left with lots of resources. My mother was 21 years old when she left Guyana
Wow.
and had 2 little kids. You know what I mean? I was like, "This it's silly." Like, why would I stay here at this point, you know?
That is such a key point that, again, I want people who are born in the US and don't have that perspective. Like I count myself fortunate that I have a little bit of insight on immigration to the US because my daughter's father was from Jamaica. And he
Okay.
was actually an undocumented immigrant in the US and was deported back to Jamaica years after we were,
Oh, wow.
he deserved it. He was a criminal. But
Did you say
his
he was
mom, no, he was
criminal?
like straight up, he was. His mom though, like his mom had come from Jamaica to the US years before she brought him over. right?
Mhm.
And it was just a matter of opportunity, economic opportunity.
Right.
It wasn't
Yes.
persecution. It wasn't, it was just like I can't earn the way I need to earn for my family. Her
Right.
husband was disabled. And so she came to the US to make money. And I was surrounded by first generation and, direct immigrants in the US. And
Right.
so this idea that things have to get so bad that your life is at stake before you consider leaving the United
Right.
States makes no sense. And wait, the story you're telling is evidence of that, right? I mean,
Yeah.
you come from a lineage of people that moved to the US for, as you said, less than what's going on in the US. Democratic
Yeah.
erosion of democratic norms, which happens around the world. I have
Yeah.
somebody, Chris, who I brought on
Mhm.
Christmas Day, Sakira, who I brought on, his wife was from Romania, and
Right.
she left Romania in the early 2000s because of things that were going on there. And now they're both moving back to Romania.
Mhm.
He's from the US, but he's moving to Romania. And like, this is human history, right? This is what
Right.
happens in human history when people feel like their nation is not serving them properly, their government is not operating in their favor. They or sometimes it's not even a negative in their home country. Sometimes it's just
Right.
I want to go see what else is out there.
Yeah.
That is normal, and that's what humans have been doing forever.
Right.
And
Absolutely.
so, it's great, I think, for people to hear this, because I think, the fact that people who come from immigrants who came to the United States for opportunity, for democracy, for, a sense of equity and fairness,
Right.
and now are seeing, oh, this isn't what was promised, like
Right.
what's happening now to the United States has happened to other countries. Fascism
Absolutely.
fascist takeover is not new. And we know that one of the reactions to that is self-preservation,
Right.
right? Is getting up and
Absolutely.
leaving. And that's why I
Yes.
I I called this session putting your oxygen mask on first. And I want you to speak to that, because I got that from you and Will on your
Yeah.
live. Like, speak to how this ties into that idea of putting your
Yeah.
oxygen.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So the thing that I will say about this is I'm constantly exhausted.
Mm.
Just and this is and I recognize like I have a lot of privilege, right?
Mhm.
I have
Mhm.
educational privilege, I have class privilege,
Mhm.
I have a lot of privilege. Nonetheless, maneuvering in the world day to day, right? The amount of friction, you
Mm.
know,
Mhm.
it's exhausting. It's exhausting.
Mhm. Mhm.
And really, when I got to the point where there wasn't any, like you would think serving in HBCU, you would feel some relief from that friction.
Mhm. Yeah.
But all of this is the thing. And I have this conversation with my husband all the time. I have a very good friend who is a white lady. Just you and I have had this conversation.
Mhm.
This stuff seeps in, right? These
Mm.
systems
Mhm.
of like the HBCU I served, super patriarchal, like
Mm.
very,
Yeah.
very old boys club, um, that kind of thing.
Mhm.
Uh, and my husband and I have had this conversation 1,000 times because I was in rooms that I never would have been in, but for the fact that he was there with me. If
Mm.
I had done that role as a single woman,
Mm.
right? As a widow,
Mhm.
like if I didn't have my husband as sort of authenticating machinery,
Yeah.
there's no way. And it's not just that I was married. I mean, I think that mattered. It's also who I was married to, right?
Yeah.
Like my husband is like, he's that guy that in a room of other guys, everybody wants to chat with my husband, right? Everybody
Uh-huh.
wants to be buddies with my husband. Right? He's that guy.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and that opened so many doors for me that
Mm.
would have been closed to me otherwise, right?
In an HBCU.
At an HB Now understand, this has nothing to do with my qualifications,
Yep.
has nothing to do with any of that. This has
Mhm.
to do with my gender,
Mhm.
right? And
Mhm.
so that it's exhausting. It's
It is.
exhausting to have to maneuver around and through like these um what's the right word for this?
Obstacles? I mean,
All the time, every day. I
obstacles.
don't
It's like
I
and
don't
and and you have to put in so much emotional labor to like, how do I respond to this so that I don't offend
right,
them and I don't come off strident and blah blah.
right.
Yeah, girl. I've been
Yes,
and that's the academia, that's the nonprofit world, which is where I
yes.
come from. It's government, which I also
Right.
was part
It's
of. Like,
absolutely the legal profession.
oh,
I
forget it.
mean, I
Forget it.
this is a big part of the reason that I left the practice of law, right?
Yeah.
Was more gendered than anything else because I was practicing law as the mother of 4 little kids. Um, and so every time that I wasn't sitting in my office, people assumed that I was somewhere parenting, right? I was like, no, I have to leave the office to meet clients. Like, I have to leave the office to do my job. So, why are we doing this? I don't wanna do this.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
it
And
was
you don't have to, right? I mean, like,
right.
because you've paid the dues, right? You've like sacrificed your soul in some ways, right? When you're doing that, when you're depressing
Yes.
your own value in the workplace because it might offend somebody. All of that is deteriorative, I guess if that's a word,
Yeah.
on your
Yes. It's so there's a perfect word for this. It's called weathering.
you paid dues. You got your
Yes. Yeah. So, you're frozen for me, Elizabeth. Can you still hear me? Uh-oh. Is it me? Am I frozen? I cannot hear
hold
you,
on,
Elizabeth.
I'm gonna turn off
Oh,
my video.
there you go. I
Can you hear me?
I can now. Were
Okay,
you
I'm
hearing
leaving my
me?
video off just in case.
Okay. So what I was gonna say is there's a word for it. It's called weathering. This like what happens to
Mm.
you over time living in these obstacle
Mhm.
laden environments. And I didn't make that up. Ruha Benjamin has a book called Viral Justice,
Mm.
which is one of my favorite things that I've read, certainly in the last 5 years. Um, and in it, she makes the argument that weathering, like we joke, black don't crack, but it, but it does weather. And it's this notion that, like, living in this environment where you have to be hyper vigilant,
Yep.
wears you out. It makes you old before your time. That's how Ghanese people would say this. It makes you old before your
Mm,
time, right?
mhm.
Um, and I read that and it resonated so much with me
Yeah.
because I was like, yeah, I feel that in my bones, you
Yep.
know?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
I know, yeah, I worked so my last employment position was in, fisheries management, environmental conservation and fisheries management,
Mhm.
and I had to deal with people from a whole bunch of different industries, but the ones who were most influential and who I had to interact with disproportionately were good old boys from the US South who were fishermen and fishermen for
Mm,
generations, which means they did not have formal education.
right.
They had
Which
a
means they
very
already hate you because
oh, they hated me
right,
because I showed up with short hair. I mean,
right. Short
they
hair
hated me
and
because
educated?
I'm
Absolutely not.
educated. Exactly. I'm
Absolutely not.
educated. I come from New York. Oh God, forget it. Like I was,
Yep, you're a Yankee.
yeah, yeah. I was a Yankee, whatever, all of the things. And I started that job in um early 2016.
Okay.
Early 2016. So by the summer, I was already telling the people in DC, Trump might win this because I
Mhm.
had so much exposure to these people that I didn't
Yep.
really know existed, right? Because I'm from New York. Like they don't
Right.
it's different. So, yeah, I mean, the moral injury, the weathering, as you say. I mean, I had medical problems.
Mhm.
I was much younger, and I had medical problems from the stress. You know, uh, acid reflux. Back,
Right.
I mean, I was a mess, and
Oh, we're
and then
breaking up again,
then I think
Elizabeth.
about my husband. You know, he was born and raised in the U.S. South. We were living together in Southwest Florida, which is
Mm.
ugh, it is
Oh, so
we
we
were
said Florida is different, and I'm gonna describe exactly what I mean when I say that. Florida is the South pretending it's not, right? It like no, I'm dead serious. This is the thing that I have
yeah.
concluded, right? So I understand my grandmother has been in Key West for 45 years, a long time.
Mm,
And so that is the version of Florida that I knew before I moved here,
mhm.
which has nothing to do with the
Vacation
rest of
Florida.
the state, right? It has nothing to do with the rest of the state. So
Nope.
when you are in South Florida, Miami, etc., you're essentially in the Caribbean for all intents and purposes. Like
Mhm.
you're in the Caribbean. It's very culturally Caribbean.
Yep.
Um, and then northern Florida is really just South Georgia, right?
Mhm,
So north of
mhm,
where I am, you're really just in like rural Georgia.
mhm,
Uh, and then Central Florida is this weird, like, confluence of people
mhm,
from South Florida, vacationers, snowbirds, like, Central Florida's Disney, right?
mhm, yes.
And but then and this is the thing that I learned working for the state, Tallahassee
Mhm.
is Montgomery, Alabama.
Mm.
You just took away Montgomery, Alabama's self-awareness. That's what Tallahassee is. I'm dead
Wow.
serious.
What do you know about Sarasota, Bradenton area?
Not as much as I know about Tallahassee.
No, I could tell you that that's where we were. Well, Bradenton, Brayton, Tucky.
Mhm.
Bradenton was basically like a, a lot of meth, a lot of trailers, and then a lot of snowbirds and retirees
Mm.
and the occasional random person like me who thought they were moving close to the beach and reducing
Oh,
their expenses and just being in the warm weather and come to find out like you're surrounded by basically rednecks, right? And then
yeah.
Sarasota was I witnessed Sarasota go from relatively blue bubble, somewhat progressive artsy retirees from around the United States
Mhm.
to MAGA Central. Like there were a
Interesting.
disproportionate number of January 6th traders that came from Sarasota County.
Wow. So how did that happen? Was it, like, people moving in from other places?
I think so. I think Sarasota became because
Huh,
it's expensive. It got increasingly expensive. They're trying to they tried to turn it into a sort of like Miami-ish type, you know,
okay.
but for old rich white people.
Okay.
And
That
yeah, I
didn't
mean, a
pan
lot of
out,
people
huh?
moved there. A lot of people moved there. Like, basically, wealthy people who make their money in, real estate,
Mm.
that type of demographic,
Yeah.
um, moved there in droves. And over time, people started leaving, right? The liberals and liberals got priced out
Mhm.
or moved away because of, I mean, it was like
Right.
the central hardcore. So a lot of people started leaving, including us. Um, yeah, and now it's become, and there's also like Russian oligarch
Oh, good.
energy there. Yeah, a little bit, a little bit. It's a weird place. It's a weird
The
place,
whole
but
state is weird.
it is.
Right.
It's fun.
What's the most interesting thing about Florida is how many different places Florida is, right? Like, it's
Mhm.
I didn't even realize how giant Florida geographically large Florida is, right?
Right,
I
right.
was, like, driving around the state for work,
Hmm.
and, there are there are 2 time zones here. Like, it's a weird place. And
Yeah.
and it is also, I mean, the thing that unifies these places is this sort of conscious unconsciousness. Like,
Mm,
that's what I mean when I say that, Tallahassee is Montgomery without self-awareness. Um,
mhm.
my Florida likes to act like it wasn't part of the Confederacy, but it was.
It
You know,
sure was.
like, yeah, but that history is
Mhm.
papered over, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
The Sunshine State.
right. And now the
Mhm.
governor, the current governor, and I've only lived here under this governor,
Yeah.
is, I mean, he's a fascist. Like, there's
Yeah,
no
he
way
is.
around it. It is what it
So
is.
quick point about that. In 2018, I was there and I was volunteering for Andrew Gillum's campaign. Okay.
Yeah.
I witnessed not only the DNC totally neglecting his campaign,
Mhm.
even though he was mobilizing more people than any of the other candidates on the slate,
Right.
right? um, they did, it was it was actually pretty well publicized that we don't know for sure whether it was the current governor's people, but there were these racist robocalls that went out to a bunch of
Mhm.
people with like with all these really really disgusting racist tropes. I mean, they tried to get him on corruption because he accepted some freaking tickets for a game
Yeah.
from somebody
Yeah.
from a lobbyist or whatever. I think it's a lobbyist who's now tied to Epstein, if I'm not mistaken. But like
Right.
when you consider, it was an example of the rules applied to the black man running
Yes.
the
So
same rules that they all flout.
this was my exact experience
Yeah.
at an HBCU was, we are going to, you have to dot every I, cross every T, check it 3 times.
Yep.
Um, the other schools in the system don't operate like this.
Mm-hmm.
They
Mm-hmm.
don't, right?
They
I mean,
don't
I
have
was
to.
told to my my counterparts at other state institutions, and they were like, "We don't do that. We've never
They don't
done
have
that."
to. They don't
Right?
have to.
They don't have to.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that constant surveillance, which is, there's no other way to put it, um, it is corrupting.
Yeah.
And when I say that, what I mean is, the thing that I learned is, institutions are like people, right?
Mm,
And so when people live under that kind of constant surveillance, it warps the way that they plan, the way that
mhm,
they make decisions, all of that, right?
mhm.
It's the same thing for institutions.
Mhm. It's that culture of fear, the
Yeah.
culture of fear and hypervigilance, and it's necessary. It's a
Yeah.
necessary evil, and to bring it back to immigration, I wanna say 2 things about that hypervigilance and the mental health deterioration and all of that. I don't think a lot of people who were born and raised in the United States understand that it is not like that everywhere, and that
Yeah.
is not normal, and it's not inevitable, right?
Right.
It is not
Yeah, here it feels
inevitable,
natural. It feels like it's just, you know, it's like this everywhere. No, it's not.
and people will tell you that. People will tell you, "Oh, well, you think it's gonna be better over here." But, uh, and then they'll tell you, "No, it won't be like that," because I know a person who knew their cousin whose cousin told them
Mhm.
that something happened in that country too.
Right.
Okay. I mean, literally, I've had, like, when we announced that we were leaving, I had people who had never in my life contacted me up in my messages on LinkedIn and my DMs
Wow.
talking about a rape that happened 20 years ago in Mexico. And I'm like, what is your agenda here? Like, I don't
Yeah,
even know you. What is It's weird. It's very
it
weird.
is weird.
But people hold on to that. The other thing I wanted to note, because you mentioned earlier, being in Ohio where it's 2% Black and having kids that, present as
Mhm.
biracial. And I wanted to speak to that because, I'm in an interracial family. My husband's Black. My child, who's now 30 years old, is biracial, right? And she, depending on where she goes, people assume different things about her racial identity,
Yes.
right? In New
Yeah.
York, they're like, "Oh, you're Dominican,"
Right. I've had
right?
that experience myself. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. But I wanted to know also that where we are now, right? There are not a lot of Black people on the island of Cozumel, like living here.
Mhm.
There people come to, tourists or whatever. Not a lot of Black people living on the island of Cozumel. But nevertheless, it's also not white people. It's
Right.
also not white people from the US or anyone, the
Yeah.
majority of the population are Mexican and they have indigenous ancestry and they're, brown, right? And
Yes.
so one thing that's been so fascinating is that even though there's not a lot of white people here, there's not a lot of Black people here, we can go out. And when my daughter came to visit and brought her partner, who is a Black woman, a dark-skinned Black woman who's Jamaican by ethnicity, and my dad, who's a white man, we were all out together. And
Yeah.
people here don't blink. The
Right.
locals, they don't
Yeah.
blink. It's not oh, that's I mean, I had people say in Spanish right away when, oh, it's your daughter. Oh, sí, parece que, she
Yeah. She
looks like
looks like
you.
you. Yeah.
She looks like you. And I'm like, yes, she does. She actually really
Thank you for
does.
noticing.
She's just darker with curlier hair and dimples. Like she
Right.
literally looks just like me. And, it's so
So
fascinating
what
because the idea that y- being a minority, like being in an interracial relationship, you're always going to be a minority. There's no like
right.
that family composition is always going to be a minority, but it doesn't necessarily mean microaggressions,
Right.
hostility,
Yes.
inappropriate questions, othering you from
Right.
your family. People don't do that here, even though we're a
Right.
minority.
Well, so you know what the difference is? And this is a difference that I think I've always been aware of because I experienced an alternative, right? So
Mm,
race is not calcified in the rest of the world in the same way that it is in America,
mm.
right? And
I'm,
so
I'm quoting you on that.
when I say
Go
that,
ahead.
what I mean is in Guyana, which is where I'm from, a lot of families are multiracial. Like,
Hmm.
that's the norm. It is
Yep.
totally normal, right?
Yep.
And so my sister and I, who resemble each other quite a bit,
Hmm.
but Daniela is much lighter than I am.
Mm.
And in America, this is, like, mind-boggling. Like, how are y'all related? And we sound exactly the same, so if you encounter both of us, you're gonna know we're related, right?
Mhm.
And people would be like, "How are y'all related?" "Well, we're sisters." "That's your sister?" "Yeah." "You have the same mother and the same father?" Again, not your business, but yeah, same mother, same father, right? Like, this people find this so confusing,
And it's
and
like, go to Belize, go to,
I mean,
I mean,
it's a non-issue. Like, no one found it confusing in Guyana. Nobody, right? And that is because in Guyana, the way that race is understood is purely phenotypic, right? So people
mhm.
look at you. Also, the Caribbeans have no filter, in case you didn't know that.
Oh, I know.
Right?
Like I said, my former mother-in-law was
Right. I'm
Jamaican.
like, if you know Jamaicans, you know that people will call you like black, right?
Mhm,
Dark skin. Now that's your name now, right? Because
mhm,
it's what I
mhm,
think
mhm,
about you. So
mhm,
so in Guyana, it is perfectly reasonable to articulate me one way racially and articulate my sister a different way racially because it's
mhm.
not the same thing. It's not calcified in the same
Yeah,
way, right?
yeah.
And so it's really descriptive, you know?
Mhm,
And because Guyana is mixed in the way that it's mixed, right? People look at me and they're like, "Oh, you look like someone who is Black and Indian.
mm,
That's how we're gonna regard you." And people
mhm,
sister and they're like, "Oh, you look like someone who's Black and Portuguese. That's how we're gonna regard you." And it's fine. There's no confusion
mhm.
about this.
Right, and you're related, you're blood sisters, and
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 we are all human.
it's a more accurate way. If you
Right.
feel the need to classify people, it's a more accurate way to
Exactly.
do it.
And no one
Yeah.
is, like, confused by this set of facts, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But which for the same reason, like, people encountering me and my children, they're not confused, right? My
Mhm.
children range in skin color from slightly darker than me to
Mhm.
even lighter than my sister. That's not
Mhm.
confusing me, Diana. It
Yeah.
happens, right?
Yeah.
With some
Yeah.
degree of regularity. So it's just
Mhm.
this like calcification of race
Mhm.
is in America is the thing, right? And anytime people try to argue with me about this, I'm like, really? Who was the first black president? And they'll say Barack Obama. And I'm like, are you sure? Because
Mm.
that man's mother was white.
White.
Now,
Yeah.
help me to understand, right? Like the thing that you're saying is completely illogical
Mhm.
unless you understand race from in America's sense of race, right? The
Yes.
only place where you
Yes.
can get away with describing Barack Obama as the first black president is
Mhm.
in America.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's and these ideas and realities that you're talking about are part of a discourse that people were trying. I feel like people were trying to build and
Right.
and encourage in the early 2020s and 2018, 19.
Yeah.
And now we've regressed so far
Yeah.
that even trying to
Well,
have a nuanced conversation like that in the US, why?
yeah.
Why even bother?
Right. And I think over the course of my life, actually, this has happened more than once. Like the
Mhm.
US has gone forward, two spaces and then back three,
Yep,
right?
yep.
And over and over again. And I think,
Except for the economy. That's the only thing that doesn't go back. We're not going back to the dollar actually meaning something.
yeah, but I mean, on the race front, we have gone forward, backwards. But
Mm,
and then, with Obama's election, I think that's the biggest retrenchment
yeah.
that we've seen, right? And I think that makes sense because in the minds of, those who want to tell you that America is a white country, where, according to the vice president, you don't have to apologize for being white anymore. I've never encountered the apologies. I would like to now receive my apologies. um, but in that America, the ascendancy of a biracial man to the presidency was like, and then they couldn't bring him down, right? You and I know that if they could, they would have, right? Like
Mhm,
Black people in America were both excited and terrified when
mm,
Obama was
mhm.
elected
Yeah.
because we were like, they're going to kill him, right? I mean, that
Yeah,
was a real
I was actually shocked that he survived those
right,
terms.
and not
Yeah.
just he survived physically,
Mhm.
but also like they couldn't dirty him. They could right like
Tan suit, that's all they can do.
And I mean, I promise, like, people lost their minds because
Yeah,
they really did, I think, believe that that was impossible, that it was
yeah.
impossible for a Black man, Black in America's terms,
Mhm.
to be elected, be reelected, right? Never
Be
have
good at
any
the job.
controversy, never have any scandal. How?
Mhm.
It can't
Mhm.
can't be. They still can't get over it. It's still
No.
not they still can't get their minds around it, right? Which is why you see the, like, current occupant of the Oval Office putting out videos with them as apes, right?
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
I don't
yeah.
wanna end on this hard note.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's like, well, if anything, this entire conversation just made the case for why emigration is the answer for some people, right? Like,
Yeah,
when I say the answer, I mean, like, the answer to, look, I got the rest of my life, especially somebody, we're middle age. Like,
yeah,
I got the rest of my life. I've paid these dues. I've done this work. I've tried and tried and tried to contribute to this country in ways that will make it a better society, in ways that will make it closer to what the promises, which were hypocritical even when they were issued. right?
Absolutely.
But tried to get as
Especially when they
close,
were issued.
especially when they were issued. Exactly, exactly. But tried to at least, move us toward a society where those promises had some resonance in reality.
Right.
And it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen in my lifetime, period. It's
Probably
not.
not.
And why? What is there for me? What is there for
Right.
me? And
Yeah.
why should I become a martyr
Right.
to this
Exactly.
this failing cause? I'm not going to do it. You're not going to do
Yeah.
it. Reggie's definitely not going to do it.
Definitely not. No.
you
And so at
know?
this point, I have not given up on the project. I'm a mother, I'm a grandmother, like, I believe in this project, and I think, um and I continue to be hopeful, right? But
Mhm.
hope, that's not you can't eat it, right? You can't you can't really. So, I think I really do think that getting out of the United States and then thinking broadly about how I can use my skills and talents to advance the project of racial justice,
Yeah.
um, is much more likely to be impactful.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I hear you, and I think similarly, because of the stress and the weathering and the exhaustion and the inability to just live in peace in the United
Mhm.
States, for me, I got to a point where I was no good to anyone, right? Because I
Exactly.
was I was tired, I was angry, I was fearful, I was
Right.
hypervigilant. Um,
All the time. Right.
and,
Exactly.
and now I like you, I mean, I'm never gonna give up on trying to do good things, right? That's just in my
Right.
nature. It always has been. That's why I was in the nonprofit,
Yeah.
field for so long. But I think that my focus now is more on this, what I'm considering us to be, and what I'm seeing a lot of people becoming is this, like, diaspora from the US, right? Of
Yeah.
people who are like, no, like, we care about these progressive values, we care about human rights, we care about justice. And we want to build, and now that we are globally connected, for better or worse, everyone, is globally
Right.
connected by the internet. We can bring that to a global network of people that are
Right.
supporting each other and helping each other and advancing
Yes.
progress in our respective nations, rather than
Mhm.
just being all about the US and saving the US. And it's,
Right. Precisely.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Well,
And
we are over.
it's a project. Absolutely. It's a
It
global
is a
project.
global project because we have global, I mean, the things that they're doing now are having global implications, right? Uh,
Absolutely.
Fun fact, yesterday we were driving through town and we saw a truck, and on the truck somebody had put masking tape and it said, "Go Iran." And
Oh,
I was like, "Yo, you got to really hate the US
yes,
to be
exactly.
saying that." I'm like,
That's
see, we're
wild.
Canadian, yeah. But um but we do have to go. This was so wonderful. We'll definitely, if you're open to it, a couple months away, I'd love to reconnect with you on here, assuming Substack is
Absolutely.
still up. Um,
Yes.
and
We'll
yeah,
have to get together once I'm in Barbados.
yes. Oh my God, I can't wait to see pictures and hear
I'm
about it.
excited.
But thank you so much for sharing your journey and your knowledge and your wisdom. And thank you everybody who attended. Please send this to people. Somebody in the comments had said, I think Sean Chavez had said that you know somebody who where the wife is not ready, but the husband is ready. Send this to them. Send this to them.
Yes.
Yeah, and thank you all for showing up and for commenting and engaging. And I'm sorry I couldn't get to everybody's comments because I only have one brain. But we appreciate you, and follow Deidre on Substack. What is your
Yes.
you
It's
have a
Deidre
publication?
Keller 21.
Deidre Keller 21. And
Mhm.
this recording will go out, and you'll be co-author on the recorded
Yeah.
posts so people
So
can
I'll
see it too.
post it as well.
Thank you
Yes.
so much. I'm excited for you. Thanks all. Have a good one.